Hi, I'm Nille, as you might know by now. Today I will just make a little video about the sewing techniques in the Viborgshirt. This is the Viborgshirt. It is a Danish found, and it's an extremely found because it is almost complete. There's 8 different seam techniques in it, and they are all preserved. It's from about 1000 and linen. So today I will just tell a little about the different seam techniques, and then I will make a class of the whole shirt maybe next week or something. Okay? I have this is the techniques I will sew. What is funny about this shirt is that there's so many different, and they are quite different from other seam we have found. The main problem is that we have not found so many because often the wool cloth even was sewn with linen or vegetable fiber, so the thread is gone. You can tell something from the holes in the wool that the thread will make and keep. But here they are really fine, and if you make this shirt, it's a masterpiece if you ask me, then you can make everything within Viking. It's funny to do, also for beginners. It's not difficult, it's just fun. So let's get started. We'll start with the shoulder seam. So the first seam is the shoulder seam, where you also add the lining. This is the top fabric, this is the shirt, and this is the lining, and this is the shoulder line. So the lining in the shirt is in 2 pieces, and they are gathered in the shoulder seam. So you see, first I have bent in the seam allowance on both of those, and then I sew this from here. And as always, when I sew historical clothing, I never start with a knot. So instead I'm sewing 3 times on top of each other. Like so. So now I'm out of this fabric, so I jump over that and sew into the next 2 on the top, like so. And that's what I do all the time. Not into the fabric that I'm out of, but the next 2. And that all the way over. I don't know what this is called in English, the stitch. If anyone know, I would really like to know that if you can make a comment. If we translate it directly from Norwegian, some people call it feather seam, so it's a variation at least of that. So that all the way over. With a nice cup of tea. Oh, I miss Belfast. Most of 2020 I've been in a film studio in Belfast making clothing for the new Viking movie The Northman that will come hopefully this year. And in there was this beautiful lady, English lady living in Belfast, Lizzie, and every day 5 to 4 she said, "Anyone for a nice cup of tea?" So now since then, every time I make tea, I think of those nice days with so many crafters and artists and people really wanting to create gathered in this studio. It was fantastic. So tea has got a new meaning for me now, thanks to Lizzie. So, that was the shoulder seam. It looks like a little mice has been walking over the shoulder. This is the right side. You hardly see it, except for a little structure. Okay? So next seam is the square on the breast and the back of the shirt. This time, this is the main fabric, this is the shirt fabric, and this is the lining. Hope it's not too confused. First I take the lining away. The lining is now sewed in as we did before. So it is hanging over the breast and over the back in the shirt now. So now I will sew this cross and the square together in both of them, but not in the beginning. Or yes, you'll see. First I take away the lining, and then I have ironed, maybe you can, it's almost gone. I've ironed the lines for the cross, like that, and like that, approximately. So the first thing to do, the square is not very big, it's maybe like that. So the first thing I do is that I follow a depth in the width I wanted. See? And then I do the same here, of course, so that's all in center. Measure, make sure it is a quadrat, the same length. Six. So now I have marked the square, and now the lining under, and now pinning. The thing is that this piece should be bent outwards, so there's a little fold under here. See, it goes just 1-2 millimeter under there. and only in this, not in the blue, not in the lining, but it's pinned down in the lining. See? So now I can start sewing this. Maybe it's more clear if I use white. Yeah, I think so. No knots. 3 times on the top of each other. Come on. What is going on here? Oh, this is a synthetic thread, maybe not good. So, I go up 2 millimeters from the corner. And here, first time I go up only in this, I go through 3 layers. See? Here is the corner. So I go in a little before that. So we're going there and through the fold. So you see, 1, 2, 3. And now I shall sew in both the layers. So now I have this fold in here, so I sew in that. And here we're talking small stitches, max 2 millimeter. Running stitch. And you have to enjoy this, or else it will take very long time. I think this shirt is so nice to make because there's 8 different seams in this, seams techniques in this, and when you've done that, you can do everything. So it is sort of a masterpiece. And I will make a class of it soon, but someone asked for the stitches now. I'm not sure if you can see that more clear than the brown. But running stitch all the way over to the other corner, 2 millimeters from it. Make sure it follows a width, so it's getting crispy and very straight. Almost there. You see on the back side it's just a running stitch, but here there is this fold in here. So now I'm here, so the next line is there. And again, maximum 2 millimeter in there. And only the top fabric. What is that called? The lining, and what's the other? Someone please tell me that in the comments. Now, the funny part. Now, the same technique is used up here. So, and that's just, I don't know what's called. It's difficult to make that corner nice. So, the only thing to do, the only thing you have to do, is to spend some time doing it. You see? That was why I stopped a little before that corner, to make sure that this will be nice. I will not sew this line right now. I will sew this square first, and then afterwards I will start on the corners. But now, I go in the lining, the bottom layer, and this one. You see? I come up there 3 millimeters from that edge, and then I go into this that I'm really sewing on there. You see? Then I pull it all in place. So when I come to here, I continue when I'm finished with this. So now running stitch that way through all layers. And pull to make sure it is staying there. All the way around, and of course I do it with all 3 corners. 4 corners. Do. So I will see you when I'm here in a minute. And a cup of tea. So now I have made the running stitch all the way around. And now I am up on the last stitch before I should sew out on the lines. And here again, as I did in those corners, I sew through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 layers here, because I sort of stabilize that line also. So I'm in those 2 I normally do, and then down in this one too. So I get it in the corner. See? And now I continue out here. This line will go out to the waist line in the side or to the shoulder seam, in out there. Here's the neckline. And you see on the back, it's not folded at all, it's one piece. So it's only the top cloth that get the folds. Then just continue with the same small stitch all the way out on all four. See you in a minute. So now this is finished, and it really looks like a patch, but it's not. It's sewn. It's the same piece. So that was seam number 2. The next seam is inside. This is the waistline. This is down. This is up, and this is the lining, and this is the top coat or top fabric. So you see, first I have bent in the seam allowance on this one, on in the waist, on the lining, and then I put it on top, bend it. This I sew from inside also. So this one I sew from the lining side through the bended lining, both of them, and not back in the other one yet. And now I take that one with me and through both of them, and then only the lining, and then both of them. See? So on this side it looked like an overcast, on this side it looked like a running stitch. So now I've been sewing all the way over. That is a quite nice seam, I think. This is on the right side. The lining attached to the linen on the top fabric. That was it. And then the next is the flat film seam, flat felt seam, where you first, let's see which side is which. Yeah. This is a half seam allowance I use 1 centimeter seam allowance. So I have a half centimeter outside here, and then I sew the running stitch a little more than a centimeter from that. So this one and this one together is the 1 + 1 seam allowance I have. So first running stitch. Sometimes linen is really hard to sew in. All the way down. This seam is used in the sleeves in the Viborgshirt. So now you see that the structure gets nice. And now lay the seam down, bend the long one over the short one, and overcast. And not really through this fabric, it only takes one thread, one tiny thread. So there will only be a little structure in on the other side, on the right side. So that is the wrong side and this is the right side. So you see here the structure from the running stitch and the small holes here from the overcast. What is a little funny about the Viborgshirt is that the sleeves are sewn completely finished with taking care of all the edges before it's sewn to the body. So all the edges up on the top of the sleeve and on the hem are folded twice. This. Or maybe I should do it on this, then you can see it better. One, 2 times. And then fold it again. And now running stitch on the edge, or very close to the edge, and not so small. They are maybe 4 millimeters long or something like that. And take care to take this is the wrong side, but on the right side take care to take very small stitches here so you won't get long stitch visible on the right side. Here, go through all of it, all the time. So it is running stitch on both sides, you see? Hey. 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 Du, kan du finde stadigvæk der? Ja. See? It's a quite structured, or it's a very visible seam. So, right side and wrong side. That was that. And now the side seam. Yes, it is this one. The side seam. There are 2 layers of lining. We're taking in the seam allowance, and two layers, of course, front and back of the shirt, the top cloth. We're also taking in the seam allowance. And when I sew this is sewn from the right side. When I sew this, the lining will be visible outside, just as a little touch. Come on. Okay. As with the shoulder seam, it's the same thought. When I'm out on this side, I don't sew in this now. I jump over that and then I go into the 2 layers of lining and the back one. So for every stitch I go through 3, not the one that I come out of, but the next 2 lining and the top cloth there. Similar to the shoulder, just that there's one more layer here. So there's never stitch over the lining, you see? So this little, in this case blue, will be visible. So now I've sewn the sleeve seam together. And it will look like this outside. This is the body and this is the sleeve. Nice? And this is the inside. Very nice. And now overcasting that. That was the same from the